In the insane year that 2020 has been, I, as many others have, had a lot of free time to kill sitting around at home. A big part of my pastime has been spent playing many different video games, and the two most recent ones that I've sunk most of my time into are Smite by Hi-Res Studios, which I'll likely talk about in their own separate video, and the subject of this video, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege by Ubisoft. I could go all in depth in the history of the Rainbow Six series and the most recent installment, but that's easily something you already know, most likely better than me, so I'll keep this recap pretty basic. Siege, as I'll be referring to it from here on out, is a tactical shooter where you play as attackers or defenders from different counter-terrorist organizations around the world. The attackers obviously attacking an objective, which can range from defusing a bomb, securing an area, or extracting a hostage, while the defenders use their resources ranging from operator abilities, cameras, and wall reinforcements to keep the attackers out, either until they all die or until the timer runs out. Rinse and repeat until a certain team has enough rounds won to win the match, which is about 3 in casual matches and 4 to 5 in ranked or unranked matches, depending on if the match goes into double overtime or not. The game is extremely fun and keeps the adrenaline pumping since you only have 1 life per round and enemies could show up out of nowhere and take you out of the round. And even then, with headshots being an instant kill, you can be bailed out from bad reaction time if you have good enough aim. However, there are some serious problems to keep this game in its own little niche instead of growing into the huge game it could be. The main problems being the learning curve and the player base itself. As of the time I start making this, I'm very recently level 70, so I've had ranked unlocked for about 20 levels, and I have 35 of the 56 operators released throughout the Operation COA season. And while I've technically had the game for nearly 4 years, I've really only played it about a month and a half for any real time, so there isn't going to be any comparisons to how things used to be, since I have very little recollection of playing the game before this recent stint, other than the stadium game mode at the start of the year. Another quick thing to note is that these are mostly going to be things that I myself have experienced, so obviously I'll mention different things than you might have experienced or things you might not have even noticed. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before, Siege is a tactical shooter, with massive emphasis on the tactical part. Typically, looking at the Ash and Amaru mains, you aren't going to run into the building like Rambo and kill all the enemies without getting touched. As such, you need to be knowledgeable in each of the maps you're playing on for objective locations, potential flanks, hiding spots, as well as escape opportunities if things go south. This in itself is pretty difficult to do as a new player, simply because you need to either watch a lot of videos on the maps to see everything, or play enough on those maps to know a majority of strategies. But it doesn't factor in the different guns and abilities of each operator that you need to keep in mind. Each of the 56 operators have their own unique ability to make them different from their other options, but also making them useful in your rounds. For example, each attacker uses a drone to look for objectives and enemies, and Mozzie can use his pest to seal up to 3 drones. Sledge carries a giant sledgehammer to destroy any soft wall that wasn't reinforced, and of course the hard breachers can destroy the reinforced walls, while Mute, Bandit, and Cade can use their gadgets to stop hard breachers, or at least until a Twitch or Thatcher destroys their gadget, which circles back to Mozzie since he can steal Twitch's drone for himself and use her taser shots on the attackers. Obviously, this can be a lot for newer players to memorize each operator ability and how they interact with each other to help their team in the match. Thankfully, the icons for each operator typically alludes to their ability. Caveira has a silent step where she makes less noise to pursue attackers, so her icon is her shushing the camera. Thermite makes, in his words, a really big fucking hole, so his icon features a giant hole in a wall, and Mira uses her black mirrors to see through walls, so her icon is literally just one of her mirrors. But something I wish the game featured was a mode to allow you to test out operators before you buy them. While I said before that I wouldn't mention the past much, the Stadium game mode from the start of the year allowed you to play as any operator, which is one of the things that helped me buy Buck as my first operator that wasn't a base game operator, since I already had all of those. Even if the mode isn't multiplayer and they just unlock every operator in training grounds or allow it as an option in custom games, it would help people know what character they're buying and allow them to get used to them without feeling like they wasted their renown on them. The difficulty curve can be a bit much for players who haven't really taken the time to go into training grounds to not only learn the maps, but also the operators they play as. Obviously, it isn't the most daunting task seeing as the game has over 55 million registered players, and while we could say a big chunk stopped playing because of the difficulty curve, 55 million is still a huge number of people, so even a huge chunk being taken out is still bound to leave a few million playing still 5 years later. However, the difficulty curve isn't the biggest problem for new players. The biggest hill for players to climb over is actually other players themselves. See, Siege has become pretty popular in the esports scene, and that means nearly everyone playing the game is the upcoming world champion, and you're holding them back on their journey to the top. Of course, these people don't realize the chances of them even getting noticed by FaZe, Space Station Gaming, or any other organization are slim to none, but even taking their ace is a declaration of war to them. I should say, I have absolutely no problems with esports themselves. Of course, anyone who knows me knows that I prefer watching physical sports, but they'd also know I drop in on Smite Pro League streams whenever I see them going on. The problem is the team-based nature breeds a sweaty game, even in so-called casual matches, whether it's being kicked for not clutching or people running out to kill someone the second they spawn in, and of course team killing for accidentally doing anything, sometimes just doing nothing. There's nothing wrong with spawn peeking or other cheese strats since they're part of the game for a reason, even if they are extremely frustrating for a new player, since how are you supposed to get better when you're killed by a Plat 1 before you even get close to the building? But there are some big problems with giving people the freedom to kick their teammates. Of course, it was put in place for people to kick those that are team killing, but in my experience, the ones that are team killing on purpose are in a party with someone else, meaning they won't get kicked. You might get a friendly fire warning after killing a teammate, but it's a bit of a problem when they can throw around by killing someone they don't like, handicapping your team in an instant. And even then, these people typically have multiple alternate accounts, so getting a temporary ban for team killing after you had your warning means absolutely nothing. Thankfully, Ubisoft is removing the vote to kick from casual, which was the only mode it was in the upcoming Operation Shadow Legacy update. But just as a little funeral for vote to kick, here's my experience with it as a new player. Getting kicked from a game in the middle of a 2v1 while I downed one of the enemies, because I thought I was taking too long and didn't want to face the fact they all died within a minute of the round, leaving me 2 minutes to take out the rest of the people. Getting kicked from a game because I took Valkyrie. She isn't someone that people hate to have on their team like, say, Loki from Smite. The reasoning was I stole someone in a 4-stacks character when they didn't say anything about wanting her. Getting the clutch or kick started in up to 3 out of 4 votes because I didn't clutch a 1v5 with 2 minutes on the clock as Glaz, a long-range character, only not getting kicked since I had a friend in the game with me. Getting the vote to kick put up for me because I didn't defend the bomb diffuser, despite there being 2 teammates inside the site while I was looking for flanks without having stepped into site during the match at all. I think you get the gist of what I'm getting at. That isn't even mentioning the times that I've been nearly kicked for my rank, which isn't high enough for people, despite the fact that I've only played 2 to 3 matches outside of my placement, so my MMR is all over the place, which is a problem I could go into as well. Because everyone's obsessed with being the best, they see a new player in any rank outside of gold, sometimes even platinum, and hate being on a team with them. Quite honestly, I think it'd be a great idea for Ubisoft to take away the display that shows someone ranked stats, and I'd rather see a reputation system when I click on someone's name, so I know if I should leave a casual match before it even starts, because as it is, it only lets people judge you before they see you play, which I guess sort of happens if they have a reputation system, but if I can see how many times somebody might team kill someone, it at least gives me a bit of a warning, that this person might do the same to me, rather than, oh, this person has a 0.8 ranked KD and they're in gold. However, the biggest problems with toxicity has got to be the cheaters and people who harass in voice and text chat. The worst thing for me to see in any game of Siege is a Smurf account. Basically, these are people that have problems climbing in ranked, so they decided to make a new account to stop new players who have no clue what they're doing and gain an insane amount of MMR in their ranked games. Of course, they'll eventually stop climbing since they can't compete against low-level players forever. But smurfing is different than having an alternate account, because smurfing is intentionally made to boost their stats by playing against worse people to make themselves look better. But that's not how it comes out. Because yes, you have great stats, but that's like saying I'm good at basketball because I can score on people sitting in wheelchairs. Without any context, it might look great, but once anyone looks into it, they'll realize you were just being an asshole instead of someone actually great. However, smurfing isn't the only cheating you'll run into as a new player. A friend of mine was telling me that a member of his gaming clan mentioned him about a way to 100% win every ranked game, which was by DDoSing people so you're in a permanent advantage. If you DDoS, you are genuinely the scum of the earth. I thankfully haven't run into anyone that's done that, probably because I don't play ranked, but the idea that you can't beat someone normally so you force someone out of the game, giving them a temporary ban for leaving the game as well in order to win, essentially, you're too aware of your lack of skill, so you just want to win games the illegitimate way so you can brag about having a different color emblem and charm for your gun. It's such a scummy thing to do, and I hope Ubisoft has a way to take these people down, even if I don't know if it's possible. I don't know who the person's gamertag is that admitted to DDoSing, but best believe if I did, Ubisoft would know already. Call me a snitch all you want, it's just doing what's right to ensure the integrity of a game. The last major thing that's essentially cheating is running keyboard and mouse on console. I play on Xbox, so this is a problem that I encounter. Obviously, PC players aren't going to run into this unless they're the ones doing it. Basically, players use a special adapter that tricks the console into thinking the keyboard and mouse is just a normal controller, letting them play against people on controller. While it already seems like a bit of a problem, this is a game without aim assist, meaning that anyone with decent aim on a mouse has infinite advantage over someone on controller. Something I've seen on discussions about this online mention that these people are typically silver players on PC, who want to brag about shitting on people, so they decided to go full Barry Bonds and take steroids while everyone else is clean as a thistle. A friend of mine has told me that nearly every diamond and champion he's run into has admitted to playing keyboard and mouse. While it's better than DDoSing, it's still a scummy thing to do, especially when rank doesn't mean as much as people think it does in literally every game. Congrats, you cheated your way to a champion gun charm. All it took was giving yourself every handicap possible to beat the competition. At that point, does it really mean anything? As much as I've ragged on the game for its player base, this has genuinely been one of my favorite games to play as of late, and grinding out to get new operators and testing them out has been a blast. It's just a shame that the game is held back by people who treat games like it's the grand finals of the World Championship. Siege is something I get to play with friends and just shoot the shit on, which is something I don't get from most other games I play. But the fact that it genuinely stops being fun the second I'm playing with these things makes me wish I was playing something else with my time instead, even though I slowly get better and my KD slowly gets to a level that the sweats would think is acceptable. Maybe one day I'll look back at this and laugh at how much the game and my perspective of it has changed, but for now Siege is a game that's just too sweaty for me and anyone else that wants to get into it, which, as I said, hurts the growth of this game. Legitimately could be one of the highest played games out now if people weren't so toxic about every little thing. But that's going to do it for this video, so thank you for sticking it out until the end. If you liked this video, be sure to like, drop a comment, and share it to anyone else you might know. If you really liked the video and want to see more like this, drop a subscribe or even follow me on Instagram at MaroJohn03 to see my sweat montages as well as updates to my YouTube channel and Twitch streams, also MaroJohn03, if you want to see my friends mess around in any of the games we play. Just don't expect top level gameplay. Thank you guys so much for watching and have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see ya.